Thank you, sir. It's a lot of movement.
Bye. Sorry.
All right. A reminder that this is the last week to participate in our townwide communication survey, which is available at tyngsborough.ma.gov. The survey results will help us shape our communication strategy moving forward and will ensure that we stay on top of how people want to be communicated with. I expect that at your meeting on April 6th, I'll be able to walk you through some of those results, and then in subsequent meetings, we'll talk about how that will incorporate into our. Turn the knob to make sure it's unlocked. Thank you, Mr. Calabocas. Residents will begin to notice mailers in the next few weeks from a company called Homeworks Energy. This is an annual letter that goes out to residents. It's our Mass Save partner that works with Tyngsborough to provide no-cost energy audits to residents. The program is managed through the Commonwealth, but on the local level, it's operated by our Sustainability Committee. Sunday is the deadline to participate in the Tyngsborough-Dunstable Rain Barrel Program. This program allows residents of Tyngsborough and Dunstable to purchase discounted rain barrels through the Great American Rain Barrel Program. Residents can learn more and buy theirs today by visiting tyngsborough.ma.gov. We talked a little bit earlier about utilities. National Grid will join us on May 11th to talk about existing capacity challenges and to provide updates on the work that they've been doing to enhance reliability in Tyngsborough. I said this before, and I'll knock on wood, but fortunately we've had a better than previous years as it relates to outages this winter. And I know that they did spend a substantial amount of time last summer and into the fall doing some of the tree pruning along that Westford feeder that really causes most of our issues. Greater Lowell Tech will appear before the Select Board at its meeting on April 6th to walk through their fiscal year 27 budget and how that shaped the assessment that we receive for next year. This is something that we do every year. Last year, there was some scheduling conflict, so I think it happened after town meeting, but they'll be here before town meeting this time. Last week, I executed an agreement with the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments for the 2026 District Local Technical Assistance Program, otherwise known as DLTA. This is a program that regional planning agencies run through funding that comes from the federal government primarily and then some from the state government. And they use it to provide specific technical assistance to cities and towns. For fiscal year 2026, NIMCOG will expend up to $30,000 in staff time to manage the update of our hazard mitigation plan. This is a plan that's not only required to be on file to obtain certain grants, but FEMA requires it should we ever need a federal emergency declaration in Tyngsborough. Having a plan on file makes you eligible for the most FEMA reimbursement. So we've done this in the past every year using DLTA, and so we're happy to do that again this year. April is Tyngsborough's annual townwide cleanup month. You can pick up cleanup kits. Those consist of those bright yellow bags at Town Hall, the library, and the Department of Public Works. Grab a group of friends or do it by yourself. Pick an area. The website, we have a flyer that shows you some of the more popular areas. And when you're done filling the bag with trash, you leave it on the side of the road, and the DPW guys drive around and they find the bright yellow bags. That's why they are so bright. A reminder that the deadline to pull papers to run for office in the May annual town election is Thursday. The deadline to return papers is Tuesday, March 31st, and contact the office of the town clerk's office with any questions. On a grant front, I'm happy to share that the town was awarded a grant through MassDOT to install a set of speed feedback signs on Westford Road in the area of the police department. Believe it or not, in front of the police department is where we have most of our speeding. I know, you can't make it up. It's just the way it is. So the state provides these speed feedback signs at no cost to the town. We install them, and then the DPW maintains them. We participated in this grant program last year and were awarded a set that now sit in front of the elementary school on Westford Road. On a staffing front, last week we posted the long-awaited vacant executive assistant to the town manager and select board position. That was, of course, vacated with the promotion of Jackie to the role of director of people and culture. In the job description, we did say they have to bring Lindt chocolate for you all, so you'll be happy
Thank you.
that comes back. It mimics the posting that we made in 2022 when we hired Jackie, but we amended it slightly because we want this position to focus more on town-wide communications. With Sean taking over licensing and his background is in licensing, we're able to shift some of those responsibilities. Right now, I do most of our communications, largely because I want to make sure that they're done to my liking. But this new position will help not just our office and the Tyngsborough MA, but they'll assist other departments with their social media, and they'll play a big role in implementing the suggestions that we collected in the communication survey. A few upcoming events, Music Bingo. We had our first installment this past Friday. It was sold out, as I had previously said. It was very, very well attended. Everybody had a good time. The next one is on April 17th, and there are incredibly limited spots left. In fact, when I put this on, they were limited, so I do apologize if they've already all sold out. But you can register by visiting tyngsboroughRec.com. It starts at 7 p.m. at Ironwood Clubhouse and is open to anyone 18 plus. And then earlier I went through this, so I'll spare you my voice, but budget office hours are coming up in April. There's a big scrolling banner on the homepage that has the dates, Center for Active Living, a virtual one, and then here at Town Hall as well. Sean?
Great, thank you. To piggyback on the grant front, I am pleased to report that we have received as a town just under $95,000 from the Massachusetts Community Compact IT grant as part of our effort to digitize paper records throughout the town. This funding will allow us to meaningfully reduce reliance on paper records and integrate those documents across several departments into databases that will make them more accessible for both town staff and residents as a whole. I expect this will be a little bit of a lengthy process, but we'll start later on this spring and continue throughout most of the rest of the year. And then on the licensing front, I'm happy to report that the ABCC approved Thai Elephant Restaurant LLC's on-premises wine and malt license, allowing us to issue that license so they can begin serving as soon as they pick that up. And just best of luck to the folks at Thai Elephant who were before us at the beginning of this year. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I open up to the board for questions. Select Person Coughlin.
Yeah, the communication survey, how is that going since the last time that you updated the board?
I admittedly didn't look today. I spent the first few days refreshing it constantly, but
Okay.
we're over 100 responses so far. There are a lot of very helpful suggestions. There are some, someone suggested that I stand on the corner of Middlesex and Kendall with signs, so I will be taking that to heart. But there's been a lot of really helpful feedback, not just about our communications on social media, but also feedback about navigating the website, helping us understand what folks are looking for on the website, which will not only help us ensure that we're posting things on the website, but we have a lot of ability to configure the way the homepage is. So when we switched to the Civic Plus website almost 3 years ago now, we kind of stuck with the stock buttons, so the video on demand, pay bills, but we'll be able to use feedback from this to rearrange, eliminate one of the buttons that's not as popular and add a new one. So far people are really taking it very seriously and providing some very detailed feedback. So I expect that we'll have a lot that we can work with from it.
And just real fast, the Homeworks Energy, people are going to start receiving that in the mail? So is it a questionnaire or what is that?
It's a so Tyngsborough participates in the Mass Save program, which is a state-run energy efficiency thing. They come and do all kinds of energy audits of your home. I think Representative Gary talked about it a little bit. And then they offer incentives for doing certain things like replacing your insulation. Tyngsborough's assigned partner is this company called Homeworks. So they send out a flyer every year telling you about the Mass Save program, but it's on the homeowner to reach out to Mass Save or Homeworks if they want to take it any further. So if you get it and you're not interested, you just throw it away. But if you get it and you haven't participated, it just tells you what some of the options are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Select Person Cohen.
Well, I'm glad to see that we're continuing digitizing all of our records. When I started 9 years ago, I remember going through Town Hall and there's boxes and boxes of records, and we've been clearing those out quite a bit and going through department by department trying to digitize those. It's a long process, but I'm glad we're still continuing. And, with this, how much more do you think we're going to have to do after this?
We have been very fortunate. You've utilized the Senior Tax Work-Off Program to digitize. At this point, we're probably 60% the way through digitizing old building department records. So now, when any of our inspectional departments go into our online permitting software, they've got every single record that we have in our possession. This grant is going to help us make a dent, but it won't achieve all of it.
Right.
The hundreds of thousands of records that for years we've stored in the Winslow School. So the project will have to go out to bid. That'll help us determine exactly how many we'll get, but we are, from an operating standpoint, digitizing files here. We're moving incredibly quickly using the Senior Tax Work-Off Program. These were not in the building, not taking up space, so they were less of a priority, but it'll make a substantial dent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Select Person Gilthus.
I have so many questions. I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. For Mass Save, is that just for homeowners, or do renters or folks that are served by the Housing Authority have any benefit there?
The Housing Authority as an entity can participate, but they're subject to different standards under the EOHLC. I'm not sure how it works with rental units because you would need, the
You're
homeowner,
not
the
putting
property owner
insulation.
has to authorize it. So I would imagine that for apartment complexes that are managed, the management company would receive them. But I can certainly confirm that
If
for you.
wouldn't mind. Could you say the dates of the election papers one more time?
Thursday, March 26th is the deadline to pull.
This Thursday, okay.
Yep, Tuesday, March 31st is the deadline to return completed papers.
Next Tuesday.
And those go to the town clerk's office. right
Thank
outside
you.
here.
What constitutes a hazard when we're talking about the hazard mitigation plan? What does that mean?
In Tyngsborough specifically, just based on our circumstances, it has to do mostly with flooding. So as a part of this, they'll look at our culverts to help us identify ones that are failed. Most importantly, though, this enables us to receive that enhanced FEMA money if there was a catastrophic flood and there was a presidential declaration that this was a federal emergency. If you don't have a hazard mitigation plan on file, you don't qualify. I also do believe that there is, having one on file, and because you'd be eligible for that FEMA money, has a positive effect on homeowners insurance in the grand scheme of things. And we've always, since they were required, we've always had one on file. Ours expires this year, and so we're on track to renew it before it expires.
Beautiful, thank you. And Sean, several questions about the grant.
Yes.
I think some of my questions were answered by Select Person Cohen's question.
Yes.
But what does the 94,000 cover? Is that labor? Is that supplies? Like, what does that look like?
So the application we submitted to the state was based on a very lengthy quote we received from one of the many firms that does this type of work, so that we could submit an application for a
You would
specific
just
dollar amount.
contract it out.
So the submission that we asked for was just over $145,000 worth of work, which included taking the documents from where they currently are, putting them in boxes that are a little bit more stable, transporting them to the location where they're actually going to be sorted, organized, digitized, and then returned to us. Some of those things can be mitigated on our end. Part of that is we can get our own boxes and put them in boxes ourselves, and potentially, depending on where they go, bring them ourselves, and that could save several $1,000s by just doing that. And then they were very liberal in quantifying how many documents they think we have, because it's an imperfect measurement of how many documents are in these boxes. So we're hopeful that we overestimated, so that when the actual cost comes in, it will actually come in less than what we anticipated. There are a few ways to do it, but I do anticipate that will be a little bit short on the whole project based on what we received.
That makes so much sense, and it makes more sense in the context of the senior tax write-off program, because that's like in-house labor, but if we're contracting it out.
There's also the
makes sense.
possibility, depending on, what kind of shape the files are in, once we get into them a little bit more, that some of them may be more organized and in good shape, that we can have, still utilize the senior tax work-off program to account for something that's not covered by the grant.
Perfect. Two more questions about that. What type of records are being housed in Winslow?
Primarily building. There's a lot of building records, a lot of just older files, some of them ranging from 8.5 by 11 to, the oversized records. I imagine planning, conservation, really a lot of town hall departments that needed extra space would be over there.
And then, what are we obligated to maintain? What's our data retention requirement?
Part of that is also going through the document retention guidelines, and, some of them, once they're digitized, generally, if we had a digital copy that satisfies a lot of those requirements, so we can just discard them. Some of them, if that's not the case, or they can't be appropriately scanned, then we would need to. There are timelines that vary depending on the department, so some of them are 5 years, some of them are 7 years, some of them are in perpetuity, so it will depend on what's in there, how long we have to keep them, or, so if we find a bunch of records that we just don't need to keep at all and serve no purpose, we won't have to scan them,
send them.
and they can get reduced from that quote as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for your thoroughness.
Of course.
Select Person Eldridge.
I was a little worried when you said you had a bunch of questions. Those were fantastic.
Thank you.
The only thing I really wanted to say is I am really excited that there may be some help for the two of you. I would encourage folks who are looking for a fantastic opportunity to work with in a dynamic environment. I think that Jackie Schnackert set the bar really high as an executive assistant, but you guys do a great job, and I think that it would be fantastic to lighten some of the burden. So if there are some qualified people out there who are ready, willing, and able to go through and participate in a great environment, working with some two sharp guys, the executive assistant role, please apply. I just think it's really important to the town. And by the way, the annual report that won the award, that was actually Jackie who did most of that work. So there's a lot of reward to it and great environment. Love to see somebody good to step in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Two things from my end. So the townwide cleanup, it amazes me how much litter is in this town. I think part of that is because we do the cleanup just one time a year. I'm wondering if there's a way we could do a fall version of that cleanup, you know, in the late September, October timeframe, because it just amazes me how much trash is strewn around the sides of the road, and it just reflects really poorly on the town. Last year I had said we should have a contest so you could fill up the most bags, but I guess we're not going to do that right now. But any way we can encourage people to clean up their neighborhoods and their common areas, I think it goes a long ways. I'm glad to see that we're going to have Greater Lowell Tech at our next meeting, or 2 meetings, I guess, from now. Next meeting, you're right, next meeting. Because I would like to hear how they develop their budget, and it's one of the things that impacts the school budget. It's out of our control. We just get an assessment. But it would be good to hear that, and I think it would be good for them to hear how the towns that participate in that program, struggle. So thank you.